So seeing as is there any public comment? I don't see any. If there is any public comment and they would like to defer till later, we can do that. So getting to the minutes, we need to go ahead and approve our September minutes. Do we have
Well,
any-
I have one correction, and you may have already caught it, Frank, but down at the bottom, you have us ending at 11:59 a.m.
Ah, okay.
That was a long meeting.
Yeah. Everything else looked good, but I saw that and went, didn't we have this meeting at 5?
I think it was in the morning.
I think
No.
we had one of our tree board revision meetings in the morning, and then I believe we had our regular tree board meeting at 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it says it was called to order at 5 and then.
Okay, that was, I failed to correct my, I used the last month's report as a template.
It's a template.
Uh-huh.
So anybody have a wild guess at when we tied up?
I'd say it was pretty close to 6.
Okay,
I don't remember. I do not recall this.
Because I know I went downstairs and the news was starting.
Okay.
okay.
So if it wasn't right at 6, it was just a little bit, it was right around that time.
Okay. I'll fix it.
Okay. So moving on to updates in our old business.
Well, do we need to, do we have a
I'm
motion?
sorry, I am so sorry. Yes, I'm jumping ahead. Do we have anybody
Minutes be
that moves that the minutes?
as written.
Okay, and
Jackie moves.
I'll
that the
second.
minutes As written. Leslie seconds. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Moving forward. Now we're on to old business. Okay, so updates. Scott, did you ever hear back on those web rooms in Palmer Park that we talked about at the last meeting?
I'm sorry, what one's in Palmer?
There's a hickory tree in there that's got web worms on it. One of the residents pointed out to me, and they've continued to expand. The tree is, you had said you were going to get an arborist to go by and look and figure out whether we need to spray it.
Right, I'm waiting for just a report back. So they're gonna be on second next week, so I'll double check with them again, but I'll reach out to them in the morning.
Okay,
So,
can you let me know when they've gone by?
sure.
I appreciate it, thanks.
It says trees, plural. What's the other one?
Well, it's a tree, but it's several branches when you look,
Oh,
but it's gonna
okay.
start spreading.
Okay,
I
honey.
apologize, I was doing that, so, thanks. And then, Scott, are you updated on what's going on with the farmer's market? I know, that the
The RFQ's been posted,
It's been
and I believe it's due on the 30th of this month. It's at the end of this month. I think the 30th is the correct day.
okay, that was my question, I don't think so,
Know if we
okay,
got any responses?
We won't know that until they all come out one time. It's all a deadline.
When's the
okay.
deadline?
I believe it's the 30th. It's the end of this month.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, okay, moving on. So the next order of business is talking about tribute. We're doing a modified plan right now. Jackie has been in contact with the school. They're excited about us coming out with something to continue our relationship with the students there. And even though they won't be coming here to our Arbor Day Festival, we will be able to continue that relationship. We also, and if you look at the notes I sent you this afternoon, have a potential Arbor Day tree location. And it's on the, it'll be on the back page. there is a picture of Town Hall, and we were talking about where we lost that oak on the front corner, not going that close to the building, obviously, but one of the beds coming in with a medium-sized tree, potentially a hornbeam or some other medium-sized tree, and putting it in one of the beds so that we can have a little bit of framing on in front of Town Hall. So I'm putting that out there as a proposal. I'm not prepared to vote on it tonight, but I am, we are recommending that that be where the tree ends up going. After walking with Garden Club. So does that seem clear to everybody when you look at the map? It's not on the corner where the old oak was. That's way too close to the building. It would be in the bed by the street where there are just some plantings, and it would not interfere with those. There's a potential second location in the large bed where we have some scraggly crepe myrtles that that would also work.
Okay, now I've got it. That's Brick Lane. Okay,
It's kind of
so
bad.
the green circle is where you're talking about then.
The, on this map, and this thing is upside down from the way I look at it, but on this map, where the previous tree was is where possibly the bed down by the end of the sidewalk on Dirt Main is the A recommended location, and then B would be the in this larger bed where we've got some scraggly, we got a couple of crepe myrtles that are not thriving that we
Where
could,
they put the boat,
yeah, where they put the boat at
wine and dine.
at Wine and Dine. So just as those are possibilities for coming in with medium-sized trees that would help return some of our tree canopy.
Okay,
So,
I think A looks pretty. I like
yeah,
A,
that-
kind of
that's
balancing it out.
the preferred spot, you
Yeah.
know, just thinking about it, but also, you know, wanted to not just say we think this only location will work, so we can work with everybody and make sure that
Right.
it's a possibility. So, everybody good with that?
Scott,
Frank, any
you okay?
comments?
Yeah, just get with me prior to and we'll work it out.
Works for me.
Okay, let me write this down. And of course we would, Scott, so
Yeah, it's,
we want to make sure there's no this, that, and the other in there that we would interfere with.
Any underground lines or anything?
Did they ever get the kitten out?
I never heard the resolution to it, but everybody and their brother was out there.
Okay,
So I assumed they acknowledged that it was either out or they had retrieved it.
okay. I came by and they were waiting on the next level of people to come in, so.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Okay, so moving on, I had put the 7th Avenue Water Management proposal on the impact on trees on here. I think that's probably, that's one thing that I think has been discussed. I would say from my standpoint, I would like to make sure that we return some of the canopy that we will lose, just in keeping with our mission statement and our, ability to keep our canopy moving forward, and instead of constantly having to fight it, losing parts of it. Does anybody else have any discussion they'd like to make?
I do.
Okay,
There's a spot recommended by Stephen and Angela Withers on the southwest corner of 7th and Main.
Yeah,
It's in the right of way on the
on Dirt Main, right,
Yeah, on Stephen and Angela Withers, it's really on their property, but on, in the right of way. There is a big oak tree there that's near end of life. Or at least looked to us like it was near end of life.
Yes, yes.
And they marked a place with some bricks where it would be a good spot for a tree. And it would be kind of nice, from my perspective, to get something that's, fairly well grown, like the ones that Public Works put by the parking lot. A substantial tree, not a sapling.
I can, I can check. Yes, actually, Frank, I had added this to the 7th Avenue, so I'm glad you brought it up. I would like to see a tree planted there. In all honesty, and I don't know if you've ever driven down in Magnolia, and I believe that's 4th on the edge.
Yeah.
Is it Magnolia? It's across the street from Bob McKinley, down a couple of houses. Those are tribute trees that once that have taken off, and they were not incredibly large, but they established much better when you get them a little bit closer to the size that we brought in. We could probably bring in a little bit bigger size than we had, but not much more. And they will establish, and they're turned into large trees now, and are definitely tribute trees.
Now, is that across the street from Angela's or next door to her?
It's on the corner of her property that it's not across the street. It's on
On
the
the
corner of her
north or the
property.
south side?
On the, I'm thinking on the,
Well,
south side, on the south side.
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
on
we're
the
gonna
west,
just give them the tree.
I would like to guys to pursue that. Does anybody have any additional comments on this?
No, I just moved that we plant a tree there or give it to them and let them plant it.
I can't see anybody. Leslie, do you,
Yeah, she had mentioned it to me because I went by and went to Nearland Gardens to get something, and she mentioned it to me, and I said, it sounded like a good idea to me, but I'm not the whole tree board. So I asked her to, write something up and, give it to the tree board. So it was in some kind of writing so it could be official, but I'm good with it, whatever you guys want to do, because I kind of know which spot this is. And because I think I saw it when I was over there working in the schoolyard. And I think it'd be a great spot for a tree.
I've also walked it and seen it. It would be my recommendation that we consider coming in with a tree. We want to come in with a standard tree. We want to have the highest standard in trees coming in so that we can establish that it will be there for a good long time.
Yeah.
Requested an oak because they've lost an oak.
Where is this location?
It's on the corner of Dirt Main and 7th, and it's on their property on the corner. It's back a little bit off of Dirt Main. It's
So there's a fire hydrant. If you come out of the old administration building,
Yeah.
go south on Dirt Main or Brick Main or whatever it is,
Yeah.
go over 7th, and then immediately on your right by the fire, not far from the fire hydrant.
Oh, okay, on that corner. They're back
she said-
on their property.
Well,
yes.
it's in the right of way.
Well,
And it's very misleading because Dirt Main isn't really where it looks like it is. Okay, Dirt Main,
I understand what you mean, Frank. Yeah.
Dirt Main,
I have pictures.
really should be about 15 feet to the west from where it really is.
Now, are they gonna maintain this tree?
Yes.
I think that they should, we just give them the tree, let them plant it with our supervision, and then they will take care of the watering and everything.
Right, they just are excited.
Yes.
They'd like to have a
Okay.
replacement.
Yeah,
tree.
she had said that they would take good care of it, make sure it got watered and cared for and all the other good things. They said that
Yeah,
would not be a problem.
Right.
Okay, do we have a,
I move that well, what kind of tree? We're gonna give them an oak tree?
Yes, but we need to make sure that we have a certain standard of tree, and so we would,
Or then you make the motion.
we need to go through and, kind of discussing that. Let's move that we approve this and go forward with it, but, I think we need to come back with a size and a standard, and, so we'll revisit that next month. Now that, and then we can get going on that. Maybe it can come in with our tribute trees or something. So I make a motion that we approve putting a tree on the corner of 7th and Dirt Main on
As long
the,
as it's not in the right of way.
Is it the right one?
well, it is,
That we need to verify, and we can, if you guys want to meet out there, we can look at.
Yeah, it's absolutely in the right of way.
Oh, yeah.
but it's also replacing one that is failing in the right of way, that is exceeded its
Mhm.
lifespan.
Yeah, but we can't authorize planning in the right of way without a, pre-plan, so.
Well, can we
Well, then
table
let's-
this then
Then
until we?
let's table
Yeah.
this till next month, and we will go walk that site and determine where on that property, if we are able to do that.
Yeah, let's look at it. I mean, I'm all for getting some trees out. I don't, but the challenges we're having with right of way versus trees. I don't want to see us put in something that is possibly could come up later, years down the road, that something would happen to it because of some reason it being the right of way. You
But
understand?
I mean, Stephen's also an architect, so he is, aware of future projects at this point.
Who
So
is?
Stephen Withers.
Okay, but we don't know what projects are going to come up in 5 or 10 years, just like we didn't know back then. So let's don't set ourselves up for failure for a tree, because we're challenged with that now, as everyone knows. The last few projects we've had. So let's, like we've talked about before, proper planning, proper placement. But let's get together and go look at it and talk to the homeowners, and I'm sure we can come up with a win-win situation.
So what would be
Okay.
the next step?
Split
Uh,
till next month?
The next step will be, let's go ahead and table this. And if we have to walk it the next meeting, or else we need to make an appointment to walk it prior to the next meeting.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, well, why
Sounds
don't you guys just give me a holler and we can go out there one day and take a look at it. Susan and a couple people or something. So,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, that sounds great. I mean, I'm all for it.
okay. Somebody will make a motion that we'll go ahead and walk the site prior to the next meeting, and then discuss this more completely at the November meeting. Do I have a second?
I second.
Jackie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay. All right.
Can you guys see the agenda on the screen?
Yes, it's on the minutes right now.
Right, I'm new to this, so I want to make sure I'm doing it properly. So, you should see starting at old business if I'm doing this correctly.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Okay. So then
Okay, are we still are we in
We're on
new
new
business or what?
we're moving on to Central Park, tree planting, and then we're
Well,
going,
What we're looking at here is the minutes from the last meeting.
right. So we need to get.
Oh, good call. Thank you. Let me get your agenda. I have it as, here's the agenda with the minutes. Oh, let me scroll down. And that should be on here. Okay.
You have to admit I'm cheating. I'm using another computer to run the agenda on.
Right. Okay. So hopefully I can
There
get
it
it.
is.
So here we are. Okay. Thank you. Just want to make sure. Just throw something at me.
Okay, so now we're going on to Central Park. So it has been requested, Nora came to me and requested that we consider doing something simple in Central Park. It's already got all of its exercise equipment. It's got frisbee, ultimate frisbee, or however you call that, out there, and it needs a little bit of cleaning in the entranceway and some additional shade. So if you look at the notes that I sent you this afternoon, and I apologize for sending them so late. I worked a meeting this morning, so we have some potential plantings that we could do with some of our leftover tribute trees, or potentially bring in some additional trees if we don't have the right ones for the right place. And coming in the entryway, she requested that we have have some trees there that would be possible to be staged so that you would know it's the entranceway. There is a sign there that, so lining the trees up perfectly, even on either side isn't going to be, A, is visually appealing, and B, there's a sign there that would be blocked. So in going out and walking this with Vicki Hurst, she has put together a plan where we could come in and put 3 trees at the entranceway that would shade it and suit the purpose of having something in the entranceway.
And cosmetically, it looked good too.
And cosmetically, it would look good because we've lost a lot of pine trees there, some very tall pines. And then moving on to the next page, you can see we have additional trees that we've walked the site, that there are potential locations outside of, like on the edge of the park, that would shade it and make it pleasant, but would not interfere with other things going on there. And
When you say the edge of the park, what street are you talking
we are
about?
talking about, let's see,
Are we still on Oakdale?
we're on Oakdale and
Okay, I know where it is now.
Oakdale, and is that 4th right there?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, that would be 4th.
Yeah,
so in that one, we were talking about like either an oak tree or a hickory on that corner coming in. We did lose a hickory in the past, and trying to get something kind of that would grow up and tall and shade.
how
So-
many trees that we have in inventory right now could we use there?
We have several of the trees that we have in inventory. We pulled from most of those for this. The only ones we don't have are the understory trees
Oh,
and or the live oaks.
The
So are
only
the-
thing I'd be careful of on the hickory is making sure that it is well away from anywhere you've got exercise equipment. I have a hickory in my front yard. It drops nuts, big old nuts all over the place, and when they come down, they hurt.
Okay, okay,
So-
I would make sure that it's nowhere where you're gonna have somebody doing activities,
right.
doing their exercising and stuff. So as long as it's well away from where anybody could be underneath it, that would be fine.
So can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Are these trees that you're going to ask your landscape architect once you create your projects to plant in that park, or what? I didn't hear that part about where the plan is.
This is the plan. We don't necessarily need a landscape architect for every park. So this is
Well-
one of the ones that's already been almost completed. And we've been asked to come in and consider putting in some trees to support the projects that have already been completed there.
I understand, and how we've discussed in the past, like on your last month's meeting, about hiring somebody to come develop plans so we can make sure that we're planning the right things. We can take this to council, make sure they're aware of it. We also want to make sure, there's irrigation and any other needs that.
Right, and we are
out
also
there, so.
we're also discussing Florida natives so that they will only in the park so that they will do better.
Yeah, that's fine, whatever direction that you want to get them, but the discussion of the past and the agreement was that we'd be hiring, you'd be entering with an agreement with a landscape architect to develop hardwood trees.
Possibly,
Trees
right. We're still,
But what we can do ourselves, and we have the expertise and the product,
Well,
I think that we should be able to do that on
Yeah.
our own time schedule. We don't
Right.
need an architect to tell us.
it's
Where to
my
put-
advice and my recommendation that you move forward with selecting somebody. I sent as requested Emily's statement to y'all. I believe it was yesterday. So I think it's a great idea, but it's something that, needs to be planned like everything. We need to work with the Parks department, of course, within the parks, and we need to also let council be aware of what's going on.
Well, we're a little shell shocked considering the,
can we certainly potentially put this plan before town council? And it's a budget saving opportunity in a park that's
Exactly.
almost completed.
I think that'd be great, especially if we could get maybe somebody from Parks to, also kind of put their, because I know you talk to them, but also have them somehow, at the meeting or talk to the town council or add something to where they say, yes, and we would like this as well. So it shows that it's both committees working together.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I agree.
I'm a little confused here. Now, this is Jackie. Do we have to run, every time we plant a tree, do we have to run that by the town council?
That's a good question.
I
No.
mean, I think that we have the expertise to plant a tree. I personally have planted many of
Yeah.
them without an architect's approval.
Well, we've seen what's happened in the past, and it's been brought to everyone's attention, and you all even agreed on it, that we want to replant, but we want to do it with a plan. And we want to move forward with using professionals to do this. And we want the plan to be all collusive to the entire town. What we're planning here, what we're planning there, and so forth like that. So as y'all discussed and agreed upon, to go ahead and let a landscape architect come in and plan these, because as we discussed, there's some places we need irrigation. We want to make sure that there's proper plannings, and we want to create a capital improvement program, a 5-year program, longer, to where each year you can pick a project. If this year be Central Park, fine, that's up to you guys. And you provide the landscape architect with a direction of what
Yeah,
you want to see.
I know. I'm confused here. Do you mean that every time, if I wanted to plant a tree in my yard, that I have to have the council approve it?
No, I never said that. Never
I
said
didn't
anything
say you
about
said
your yard.
that, but I'm getting a
talking-
little confused here as
Okay.
to, I can't believe that tree board is tied up in architects and things of that sort. If we want to plant a couple of trees in the park over there.
If you.
Especially since we're not looking at any kind of right of way or anything else. Susan's already talked to the Parks Department. So,
And I did this at their request.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't see an issue here where we feel like we have to wait for a landscape architect. And my understanding was that it was a possibility of using a landscape architect, that we were going to possibly vet this and see what they would charge and all that other stuff. I wasn't aware that we now had to wait on anything we did for a possible landscape architect down the road.
Well, you know that I was not aware that we had to do that either.
Well, let me, I'd like to pipe in here. Scott, this, I've several people from Parks and Rec, including myself, have looked at what kind of trees are needed there. this fits perfectly well with what I've seen and what I've heard from other Parks and Rec people. Garden Club's been involved. I mean, there's a lot of skills been put to enforce here.
Thank you, Frank.
I really don't think we need to tie this up with the landscape architect and all that
And
kind of stuff.
wait, yeah.
I mean, Kimley Horn needs work to do. I get that.
I don't think they need work to do, but anyhow, it's just.
But I
what
don't
we've
think
discussed
we
for the
need,
last several years, and I'll let y'all discuss this with Parks and Rec as well. I'm just giving you a friendly reminder of
Yeah.
what was agreed in the past and what.
I don't remember agreeing
Well,
to that.
We talked about potentially looking at a plan. We talked about, we couldn't put memorial trees down without permission and getting a plan. And we haven't done anything in town square. So, I mean, there are certain parks that require a landscape architect more than others. But I would certainly say Central Park is not one of them, and nor is Palmer Park.
I agree.
I agree.
The recreation center potentially could use some help, but you know, tying us having a landscape architect come in for everything takes away from the character of the town and what people appreciate. I know when I took my children to the park, I always took them where there was shade and where they could enjoy it.
And what do you need a tree board for if you're gonna have architects in the town? You know,
Well, you need to-
I don't understand it. I would
you need to
never,
provide them some direction.
yeah, I would never agree to that.
Okay, well,
That's just,
last month's meeting, we discussed it, and I'll let you guys.
we discussed
tidy
it,
it up.
but it wasn't.
Right.
To my-
Here's, we discussed it, you were going to have them send a resume to us, which we got.
Yep.
But I mean, what is the scope of the project that you're asking? I mean, what's the budget? What are,
well, that was,
That's-
the next step was, if we went down that path, the next step, and if you look at the minutes, was for the tree board to come up with the scope. And I think this is a trivial, just my opinion, this is a trivial scope. It's been pretty clear to everybody in the tree board and Parks and Rec that looked at it, that this makes sense. I think
I don't know what I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not a landscape architect or an arborist. I'm just going by what we've discussed for the last several years. Back with Councilman Sapp when he was your liaison, we discussed this too. But I'll let I'll stand down, let you bring up whatever it is with the parks that needs to be vetted through them, and see what you guys come up with together. And I'm just reminding you of what was done, what was asked of me.
we remember. I think we all
Yeah.
remember that, Scott.
Yeah, so I have to
Just
say,
a friendly reminder.
I don't have the background and I don't remember, so I apologize. And I'm trying to step back and listen and learn to everything. I don't know that there's anything that I've heard so far that actually requires town council's approval. If these are funds that are within your budget and you've been given the authority to do with them what your committee votes on, and these things don't have to go before council, such as like a development review board's recommendation regarding a variance or something like that. So my apologies for not being up to speed on all of that. However, I would say that in the last couple of years, Tree Board has made some shifts too in your organization, and Susan is now leading this committee. And so, Susan, at your direction, I would say that the group can decide together what action you'd like to proceed with, but that it should be done as much in consultation with Parks and Rec and with Public Works as possible to make sure that, everyone, like you said before, Susan, about, you don't want to put a tree in a place where it might be compromised. So there should, before any trees that have, significance to any of these plans should have an opportunity to go before whoever might have information that would be important to most benefit the life of the tree. I know that's pretty big, but I just, that's all. So I just didn't want to sit here and not say anything, but I do appreciate, the situation that this particular board is in, because it is, there have been some changes made. And so, I guess whatever direction has been decided on the past, while that is good information to have, right now it's before you all to decide and determine what you wish to do. And I appreciate, Scott, you giving the background too. Thanks.
I think we
So-
should have the leeway to plant trees there in that particular park at our leisure. We'll get together. We've already talked to Parks and Rec, right? Susan?
They've come to us.
Yeah.
I have not specifically gone to them with this plan, and I'm willing to do that. Scott, you had some more that you wanted to present. Did you want to come in with like a specific scope of work and a specific budget that we could listen to?
No, the scope of work was to be presented by the tree board. It's your
Okay.
budget, what funds you have available to create projects for the future. Certainly up to you. I concur. That's why I say I would think your next step, if you have a plan, I haven't seen a plan, but that doesn't, I'm not an authority on planting trees. So,
Yeah.
but if it's in the parks, you need to run it by parks. That's the only reason.
Which we will and have done.
Well, and another question is, again, if we were to go out and hire a landscape architect, we would also, yes, we have a relationship with Kinley Horn, but are there other potential, we would need multiple bidders just to have an understanding if this is even a good price point. Especially with our budget being somewhat limited, and we also have a responsibility as per our quote unquote mission statement to maintain the trees in town square and things like that. Or I say town square, to maintain our tree canopy, which is structural pruning and which will help in storm damage, prevent storm damage, and will help the longevity of the tree lifespan just by structurally pruning it in a healthy way. And we've got some young trees, if we get them now, will prevent huge issues in the future. So when it comes to a budget, we have to prioritize. And we've got a plan, potentially, but I'd like to see us personally prioritize. And if we don't know what budget is going out for this, it limits us on projects that we really need to do as far as maintenance around here and protection of our tree canopy.
Scott, maybe another question just for my education purposes. Would a landscape architect provide some, I guess, some like kind of assessment of where things should, like where trees that are going to need pruning and stuff like that, like kind of help shape a plan for doing that? Is that part of what a landscape architect does?
They would. My understanding is they would propose locations based on direction and guidance of the tree board, of course, and what trees you want to make sure it's a proper tree for our tree zone. And
actually, what I'm asking more is not so much about putting in new trees, but do they do an assessment of the entire town and say, in your public spaces, these are your existing trees, and here are some areas that you're going to need to kind of get on a schedule and everything. Is that part of services that they provide?
They can, and that's a big job, and that has been done, probably 10 years ago.
Years ago, I think.
15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've debated hiring a company. It would not be, in my opinion, it would not be Kimley Horn. We would hire a company that does that for a living. And there are several, and they're very good ones. It's a substantial investment. It would involve heavy participation by somebody in the town, either an employee or tree board member, somebody. So it would be a major undertaking to do that.
Or an urban forestry.
Urban forestry, right?
Right, it could be an urban forester. We could also limit it to, I mean, we could structure it so we do a scope that's limited to, you know, between these streets, and then broaden those as projects move on and as, you know, future years.
So what, you know, the last time it was done, 15 years ago or whatever, there was an assessment that said something like 70 or 80% of the trees in the mature canopy were in poor health. You know, they can go to various levels and document every tree and what it needs. So, you know, we would have to, if we chose to do that, we would have to come up with how much of that do we really want and need, how much can we afford, and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
I appreciate, I learned from all of you. Thank you.
And we did contact some people in the back in the spring, I believe, about potentially doing that, but it pretty much is pretty cost prohibitive if we do the full urban forestry plan. So different ways to do it are, you know, it's better for them to all come in at one time and do it. It's more cost effective. However, if we were to do that, it would be a major project.
Yeah.
And there
Our
are,
town's budget is a limiting factor.
Yeah.
Appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. all.
and
Yeah,
there
I
is
will
a grant,
say, I'm,
there are grant programs that would, you know, but they're not big. There's not, you know, there's not a lot of money out there for grants.
So
I
how
will
much,
say, Susan, I'm looking at your plan for Central Park.
Yeah.
And I like where everything is placed. I especially like, you do have a hickory, but it is exactly that. It's back off at the corner away from where it's going to impact anybody. I think I think it looks really good, to be very honest.
Well, give credit to that to Vicky. I walked with her and we went through and measured and did everything. So Vicky gets the credit for Vicky Hurst for drawing that up.
And,
Yeah,
and by the
I
way,
like that.
by the way, Scott, Vicky, you know, she's garden club. I'm not sure what exactly her credentials are, but they're substantial.
Yes, they are. She
I
has,
realize she has a green thumb.
yeah.
No, it's-
And I-
She had a landscaping business,
Yeah,
so she has
yeah.
landscaped for years. So
And believe me, don't get the impression at all that, you know, my mom's got a green thumb and I've learned a lot with her, and I can plant some plants too. And I'm sure everybody knows they are. It's just kind of trying to create a succession plan for your committee to where when Susan, maybe you step down, somebody else, you can continue that legacy of that plan you developed through this process. So totally up to you. I know we've spoke with it in the past. If this is something that you're passionate about, of course.
Well, we could
I-
always
Well,
take bids for,
we can look into a future
Yeah.
bidding process. We also, I mean, tree board is primarily trees. We're not bushes. We're not
I agree.
things like that. And
Green.
and we're not saying that there are parks that don't need to be, you know, potentially landscaped. The recreation center is probably one of them that could certainly use
We've
some
lost
canopy and some
probably
help.
15 pine trees in there in the last 2 years.
And we could, you know, that would be something of a bigger scope that would, you know, require more help on that. So, but
Agreed.
also have to be careful about over planning and pulling it. I don't know if you remember Johnson Park up here on 6th and is that Bessie?
yes.
Where it was at one time, they came in, they planted it, and it was a huge uproar, and it's overplanted, and now it's a retention area. It's now just trees and grass. And
Couldn't see the
so
trees because of the forest. No, I agree, and that's my goal also, is to plant them properly, plant the right species, and plant something that's going to be here for 300 years. But Yeah.
Well, we can
So
certainly take-
whatever help you need, but if you have a plan, like I say, I haven't seen a plan, but that doesn't mean I need to either. But
I
that,
sent it to you at, this afternoon. It was late. So,
okay. Yeah. It's probably
it's
sitting there.
it's in your emails probably. So,
So Frank's on Parks and Rec as well. So maybe that's something you guys can ask to, meet at the next meeting or have Frank.
Or
take it
what
to
you
him.
could do for us for future date is get some bids from 2 or 3 companies. And maybe we'll use them,
Okay, for landscape architect?
Well, didn't you say landscape architect?
Yeah, or whatever you want to go down. We talked about that before. I just need some,
Yeah,
then you
we-
just need
we-
to provide me that scope of work.
well, we still probably, we still should just budget wise consider multiple bidders. I mean, they've sent us, they have a very distinguished resume
Yeah.
and all that. And I know that they've done a lot of projects for town. It's just something we need to
Well-
be mindful of and budget wise.
The difficulty in doing this is that to ask for bids when there's not really a defined project is going to make the different bidders, the vendors, come in with different prices because they don't
Exactly.
understand the scope. So maybe before you go out for bids, you can see if some people can come in with more resumes or RFPs so that they can come try to understand what the town wants. And then they come up with which is a request for proposal, not, a request for their qualifications and their bids. So they come in, they talk a little bit with you or understand what you might be looking for. And then they posit some things that, here is what we think we hear that might be the scope of things that you would want. And then if you agree to what the scope would be, then they could come back with a price. So it might be a little bit more of a process. Scott, does that make sense, do you think? Since it's not really defined right here what everyone kind of wants to see?
It does, council member, but let me remind everyone that when we do this kind of professional services, we cannot ask for prices. It's under the CNA Act, the Consultants Negotiation something Act, where we can go out for RFQ and we hire them based on their qualifications. Once we select a firm, then we can ask them, like we discussed with Kimley Horn, we will ask them, we'll give them a scope of work on a particular project, then they'll come back with the IPO, the individual project order, with the cost. So up front, you're hiring a firm based on qualifications.
In other words, we have to get a pig in a poke. I mean, we don't.
Maybe so, but hey, I got, when I put out for bid for our master engineering services, and this is kind of what I discussed with you guys last time, we know this firm. Maybe there's some things that, you want to critique them on, and that's fine. We have that reputation and that contract with them, but we know that they came in under best qualifications for most of the needs we were looking for at that time. We can go out for another RFQ, that's fine, but you're going to get a resume and you'll get presentations and they'll put together a real nice, pretty package, just like Kimley Horn just sent you. And then you'll pick them based on your, and sometimes, you just got to have a feel, but you'll base it on their qualifications and not their cost at that time. Once you hire them under their qualifications, now, does that mean you ever have to use them? Well, no, but if the attorney saw you go back out for RFQ for the same thing after you ask them to give you an IPO or a cost on a particular project, it's probably going to be hard to explain. And they're going to do that. So
I'm kind of having trouble with that. When Parks and Rec went out for bids on the concepts for the park improvements, we got prices.
Yeah, CNNA went into effect about 18 months ago.
So you can't do that anymore.
No, sir, not for engineering professional services, consulting services. So if we did the parks thing again, we'd have to go out for the same thing. I know,
Well,
I got,
One
got-
more way that corporate world is so vastly different from government.
believe me, I got spanked pretty good when I went out for RFQ on the engineering services, and I quickly got a call from Tallahassee from the Engineering Society of Civil Engineering attorney, and they clarified it for me real quick. I ran it through our attorneys, they verified it, and I had a fee schedule in the RFQ, and I had to put a notice out that I removed the fee schedule. So, yeah, it stumped me too, and I personally, I feel the same way you do. But that's what RFQ means, is qualifications and not quotes and not proposals.
Yeah, it makes me very
In
uncomfortable.
that case, I would say I wouldn't necessarily want a landscape architect if I have to
That's right.
accept a company and then basically they get to tell me how much they would charge to. I'm not real comfortable with that.
I
don't want it
understand.
either.
Let me throw out another option, and I'm just going to throw a name out. So if you took, let's say Central Park, let's use that as an example. And you don't have to use Dobson's. I'm just going to say Dobson's. Now, Dobson's has in-house talent that can put a landscape design together for you. They are not required to do that. They're a vendor. I can ask them, you can meet with them, you can say, we want this, and they'll give you a price on what it'll cost to do a drawing for a park. They know the town really well, so they would know what irrigation is available. So there's a path that you might want to consider going down as well. Now that you would know a price up front. You could ask them, hey, how much is it going to cost me I can provide them the plans from IDG, and I'm sure they could probably work off of those and input plants in there or trees. And
The ones that did town hall.
no, that was Dobson's just planted it. That was starts with a
Whatever
C.
company that was, we don't want to use them again.
Yeah, they were landscape architects. That was the ones that did the roundabouts, and I guess downtown the brick when they did that a long time. Crone and Associates. I'm close. CARRIN and Associates. But so here you've got an idea. Well, you've got a landscape company. They deal with trees every day long. So that's just an option that you may want to consider too. And that way you could probably get a price, not for the plan, but also the plants and the irrigation, everything else need in one big lump sum.
Well, again, we're focused. So how much of this burden goes to tree board if we're specifically trees, and how much, I mean, again, we're looking at the tree aspect of these plans, not the full planting aspect of these plans.
So how much is yours and how much is Parks and Rec?
Right, how much of the burden,
how
I
much
mean,
is
how
the
does it
town?
split out? And,
Yeah.
you know, how much,
Yeah, it's going to be between Parks and Rec and Tree Board. Susan, have you talked to Nora White about how much money how much you have available for Tree Board?
no, I need to find out, because that's the great mystery of what's in our budget. So,
So find out that. Also, you have, there's some conveniences there in that tree mitigation fund too. You all know that contract probably better than me. What part of that can you utilize to do these projects and goals that you have? So how much do you have? So you've got kind of two pots plus what's in farmers market, right? Didn't farmers market fall under you?
It does.
Yes.
So I would recommend, first off, find out how much money I've got, get with Nora White, our finance person, find out tree board money, farmer's market money, and mitigation money. So you actually have 3 buckets that you should have some change in there, I would think. I don't do the budget, so I have to go to her on stuff too. And then I would believe you, and then maybe meet with Parks and Rec at one of their meetings, have a joint meeting. We've done
Okay.
that before. And then ask them, hey, we're willing to do the design, and we'll split the cost of the trees. I don't know, whatever you guys come up with. I'm just throwing out ideas
I
there.
just want to make sure that we understand fully what our involvement is and what our financial obligation would be if we were doing this.
Yeah, find out how much you have first.
Oh, exactly. And
And then we'll meet with Parks and Rec in a couple weeks.
and then we also do have some, big maintenance things that we need to do on especially our large oaks that we need to talk about. So I think we've talked through this pretty well. I think we have a better idea of where we stand on how we want to do things.
Good brainstorming.
I'm going to recommend that we table further discussion on this until we've had an opportunity to meet with Parks and Rec and go with that.
And maybe in the meanwhile, you can meet with Nora and find out about the budget. So your
I
next
can
meeting,
call Nora up and have her send that to me. Yes.
yeah. And so maybe a goal would be your next meeting, because Parks and Rec will meet before you. And maybe you can go ahead and get on their agenda and have this discussion. I think Frank, at this point, with the Run Among the Lakes coming to an end, I know they have one big topic that they want to talk about, but otherwise their agenda's pretty open, isn't it? Parks and Rec?
Yeah, there's gonna be a Halloween thing.
Yeah,
Um,
that will be.
But that's the only big deal that I see on the agenda right now. And
Yeah,
that's
but
It sounds,
Yeah.
sounds like, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
It sounds like besides assessing the money and the availability in these different funds and working with parks, it sounds like we also need to assess whether, and this would be something we would discuss with parks, whether we need a landscape architect and what that entails versus what we had talked about, where it was somebody that would come in and do the survey like Frank was looking at, where there were some grants. What do we need and how much, funding wise is, how it would work together, because it doesn't sound like we need all of it. We just kind of maybe need to kind of assess a little bit better what we do need and what funding we have available, and then look at what the possibilities are, to me.
Scott, is there any way to get at an estimate or a ballpark figure or something like that? Maybe not asking directly the companies themselves, but other municipalities, to say, what's a range for different services regarding landscaping services? What are some kind of ideas? Because it also seems to be pretty relevant if you're going to even consider doing something like hiring, and putting together a plan like that. If the cost of it is 75% of what tree board has available in those 3 buckets, that makes a big difference.
It does.
Yes, it
Yeah,
does.
and I agree. It's kind of, you're not comparing, the thing is you're not comparing apples with other municipalities, because
Agreed, but
Yeah,
some
we're-
way to get
Yeah.
at something where what's reasonable, what's, something we could expect, so that, because it's a lot of used time.
why don't, I'm
Go
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's a lot of used time if it's going to be towards an end that just isn't even feasible, given the amount of dollars that are available. So some way to get at something that, isn't asking vendors to provide a schedule or, an estimate based on what we have, but, I don't know, give them kind of a scope of, we're a 2 square mile town that has these number of parks, and, like, what would be something that would be kind of a reasonable.
Yeah, I can look out there. I'm trying to think. I know of some of the ones but they usually do individual projects, not a whole.
Ah.
But I'll look and maybe I can actually find out what the costs were on some of the examples Kimberly Horn sent in. But
Is there
see,
anything?
Or
So
why
the
couldn't we
government-
just buy the trees and hire Dobson to plant the darn things? That should be cheap.
Well,
enough. And we could
we-
supervise
We
them.
can buy the trees.
Yeah, we can
I
buy
don't know
the
what-
trees, hire Dobson to plant them for us. We used to do it ourselves, no more.
right,
we
and I agree.
supervise them.
Let me offer this if you feel that way. Well, first of all, why don't we go down this path, find out your budget. Let's meet with Parks and Rec next month and get their, let's see what their feel is. Let's see if they feel warm about what's going to make them feel warm and what are they going to participate maybe in too. And let's just ask them if, hey, you want Scott to go out there? We've got, I'll look for the plan that Susan sent over that Jack or Vicky worked on and just see their comfort level about, hey, what about we just get our landscaper, we know them, and have them sketch up a little drawing. Do I believe that it needs to be this stamped, sealed form? Not really. And I'm not expecting that much. Have our landscapers, they do have some designers in-house, so it's a little better than just taking a tablet of paper and they're not going to do that. This way, hey, give us a price of what it would cost for you to give us a plan and
We have the plan. We know what we
Well,
want.
we're talking Central Park. So which parks exactly are you discussing? Are you also including the multimodal path in this? Or are you talking, which
I-
park exactly are you talking?
I'm talking about Central. I'm saying you take one park at a time. And if that's what I feel like your goal is to work in the parks, or at least this time, that may change next month to something else. Take one project at a time. This one being Central Park, Parks and Rec needs to be involved. Take what Vicky has, give it to somebody to put it on there, find out what kind of irrigation it needs, and give you a cost of how much it would to implement that plan. Do a rough plan, just so you can have a diagram, so you can take it back to Parks and Rec and say, this is what we discussed. Here's the trees. Here's the placement of it. So there's no confusion later on, because so many times, it happens where, well, I thought we were going to do this, or I was under the impression of that. So you kind of need to put it on paper just so everybody knows and everybody's transparent.
Hey, Scott,
Just
There are
my
two-
opinion.
there are two really nice oak trees next to the parking lot by the brewery of the
Yes,
future.
there is.
Yeah,
Okay. That whole process was really simple, as I remember.
Yes.
We said, let's do that. We voted on it, we approved it, and you got it done by Dobson, right?
Absolutely. And good substantial trees.
Here's
But
something,
But
Well,
you're
there's a-
working but let me remind you, and I don't mean to keep buttoning, I apologize, but you're working with another committee. So you probably need to make sure that you have this documented, whether it's a plan, a drawing, something written out, just so at the end of the day, everybody knows, everybody's clear what the expectations are, as well as myself. And then you say, Scott, here's the plan, go get us a price.
okay.
So
In the future though, as we put trees in, we're gonna come in with the highest grade trees we can. And if we have to get rid of, lose a little bit of size in order to put in a higher quality tree that's been structurally pruned while it was growing, that has a healthy root structure, that will be something that I will absolutely insist that we implement.
Okay, I don't think this is hard. I think
No.
we can meet with Parks and Rec. We can make a drawing together. We can
I think so
agree,
too.
and then we can carry on.
So,
I agree.
Susan, can I jump in here for 1 second?
sure.
Scott, do you have like a easy to read version of the CCNA compliance regulations that you could email to everybody just so that they can see, what you were referring to as far as bidding process?
I can. I think I have something from Heather from a year or so ago.
Okay.
Or
I think that would be helpful if everybody reviewed that, just to see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
And,
it's a Florida statute, so
Yeah.
it's easily looked up.
Okay.
I'd love to see it. I've
Thank
been
you.
in lots of bidding processes and this is very new to me. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's a pain.
Fun.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
I'll get the link, and I had, because I did something else and I questioned, I ran it through Heather just to make sure there were some cost values. Once you get above 15 or 30,000, which this would that we would be well above that. There's tiers that require that. So sure, yeah. Answer is yes, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
And then we can also, once we have funding and a better, an idea of the funding, then we can look at our needs. Okay, yes, in conjunction with park, but what do we need? Do we need a tree survey so we know what trees are in what health? Do we need a landscape architect to tell us, bushes and things that to go, what do we need? And that's going to be another part of the equation, because we also don't want to pay for something we don't necessarily need.
Exactly.
Because I gotta say as far as the trees for Central Park, I really don't see a need for a landscape architect for that.
No.
It's trees, and like Susan said, we know trees, especially when working with the Parks Department and Vicky and all, when we have all that information, we don't really need the landscape architect for that. I'm not saying we don't need them somewhere else, but I think that might be something that we look at for later as to what do we need as a committee to help us take care of the trees and plan things out. That's my 2 cents. Now I'll shut up.
Yes, very much so. Well, I think, I know Frank had something he wanted to add, which is kind of in line with this. Frank, do you briefly want to add that? And then, we've tabled this for next time. We've got a list of things we need to do. So we can move on to that last item that Frank sent out this afternoon.
And after Frank's done, I've got one little thing I want to make sure Scott knows about.
Okay, there's a,
I gotta go.
Who has?
I'll tell you later.
I'm kidding.
on the shoreline, along Lake Bessie,
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
are a dozen or so trees. They're probably 12, 15 feet tall. I'm pretty sure they're invasive. I don't know what they are. As a
They're
tree
wax
person,
myrtles.
They're
Say again?
wax myrtle.
They're wax myrtles.
Those are the ones that were.
Really? Those are wax myrtles?
That's, Vicky ran by and just sent me a text saying, they are native wax myrtle at Bessie Park.
How
I
big do they get?
would agree.
Wax myrtle, they don't get huge. I they start out looking like bushes.
I didn't know they were trees.
Yeah, they're stronger when left as a bush and not trimmed into a tree form. But I planted them up at my house in Northwest Florida.
What's the question?
He was
Well-
asking how tall they get. I don't
Oh,
know
how tall.
exactly. I don't think they get huge.
Okay. I think I'm gonna retract my topic. I mean, if they're wax myrtles and they can be maintained and they're not invasives, then I think we leave them.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
I mean, I'd rather have some, a few cypress trees there, but
right, I would like to see a few more cypress trees and a few more locations, but we can talk about that in future projects, but okay, I just wanted to make sure we got, if we could, we had a quick moment to slip you in on this.
okay, so I'll withdraw my recommendation.
Okay, okay.
So where are we?
So with that, is there any other discussion on anything?
I just wanted to bring up that the trees that are down by the dock that you guys put in, the cypress trees, I believe the town put them in. There is a vine climbing up one of them.
Yeah,
And I know,
Oh, yeah.
I know that they couldn't get to it, that you guys couldn't get to it because the water was so high. I just want to make sure that it does get addressed. I don't want to see the vine kill the
That's
tree.
Parks and Rec.
Which
Dick-
park, is that?
Lake Street.
Yeah,
Okay.
on Lake Street.
So, yeah,
Okay.
yes, Jackie is the official vine puller for town. So,
No, you're not going to have her climbing out there in the lake to pull that
Yeah, I mean,
vine, Scott.
But
I was
that's out
actually
of my territory.
That's out of her territory.
I've already
well,
leaned
it's
up
on the other
down
side of the
here,
street.
and that's the reason I don't want to hire an
And
architect.
I'm not climbing in there with my muddy boots to get there. So I'm letting you guys know it does
Aren't
need
you
to
the
be.
one that said to me, are you pulling vines at the last meeting? And I was leaning over.
Yes. Because I caught you a couple times before doing it. Yeah, Leslie, I was actually out with our landscaper today and it's still pretty far out in the water, but it's on their list as soon as they can get to it without having to put hip waders on.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So like one that was like the third one back.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Gotcha.
All right, that was it. That's all I had.
Any more business?
Is there any additional business? Are we,
I move
do I have
we
a
adjourn.
move Jackie moves that we adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, look at your watch and give him the time.
It's 6:15.
Okay, we all have that.
All right.
Okay, 6:15 a.m.
There you go.
Hi, everybody. Bye, everybody.
Sure was fun.
Bye.
You,
Thank you.
thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.